that moves. enca.com.
Welcome back. I want to show you just a statistic which comes from Africa Check. They have done an analysis of your claims in relation to the question of murders. And what they're suggesting is a diametrically opposed approach to you. They say that 86.9% of all murders are in fact the victims of black. Whites account for only 1.8% of cases, even though they represent roughly 8-9% of the population.
The Africa Check study has already been refuted, has
By
been
who?
argumented against by very many people who did research on their study,
No,
showing
I've
that
studied the other research.
they took
There's
all
no
their statistics from 2009, and what they did is they didn't take
And you took yours
all
from
the
2003.
No.
From this other study that you've relied on, the McCafferty.
No, I didn't take anything
Well,
from
what
that.
I mean, what other study?
I'm not relying on studies.
But
What
that's-
I'm relying on is the mere fact that a white South African farmer has a 4 times bigger chance of getting murdered than anybody else in this country.
Well, that's not
it's
true
twice,
on the figures.
It is true.
No, you're claiming that.
No,
but
I'm
the
not
figures
claiming that.
Where do the figures show that?
Every single piece of research
If
published now.
86.9% of all murders are black people, and only 1.8% are white people.
The murder rate for South Africa is 31.8% per 100,000 of the population.
Yes, and many of them are black.
The murder rate for white South African farmers is 120 of
Where
100,000
do you get
people
that
of the
from?
white South. It's from the Institute of
This is a
Security
figure.
Studies.
Well, no. This is the Tauser. That's your figures.
No, that's not my figure.
Well, those are the ones that
this
I
is
have,
the
which is
official
sort
figure released by the South African Police Services. It
Now,
also
it's interesting,
says
in the 2003 Police Committee of Inquiry, it was 38.4% of farm attack victims described as being black, coloured or Asian.
yes, this is
Right?
in 2003.
There is seriously exaggeration about this.
There is no
the point
exaggeration
no,
about
The
this.
point about it is you are making a very serious claim. Mr. Hoffman is making a serious claim that, in fact, we're on the verge of some form of genocide.
We are indeed.
Are you suggesting that white people are being targeted deliberately?
Yes, of course.
Do you make no allowances for the fact that, number one, the figures show that it's a disproportionately low percentage? Number two, to the extent that there are murders, that there's a class situation here, that wealthier people do get targeted?
We are...
Do you make no allowances for that?
No.
Why not?
We are on a list, there are 126 countries on a list of 225 that are worse off than us economically, poorer than us economically, where people suffer and the disparity between wealthy and poor is much bigger, and there is not this rate of violent crime.
Yes, and that's the truth. And the fact of the matter is, I agree with you. We should be enormously disturbed by this. Our debate isn't whether there is violent crime. Our debate is your claim that there is a genocide here on white people. And I'm suggesting to you that it's both irresponsible.
Do you understand what a genocide is, though?
Yes, it's a deliberate attack. Yes, I do know what a genocide is. Absolutely. And the fact that I'm suggesting to you is that you are suggesting that there's an intentional campaign to murder, kill, maim a particular targeted group of people who happened in this case to be whites.
That's correct.
And I'm saying the statistics don't bear that up, and it's a kind of claim which is enormously destructive of race relations.
No, the murders are destructive of race relations.
I agree with you.
You cannot ignore the fact that white South Africans are currently being murdered at a rate of between 20 and 25 per month.
No, I can do that
by black people.
Because I give you the statistics, you say you don't have proper counter ones to thing, and yet you make the claim.
I don't make the claim. Here are the names.
Whether they're names, I'm saying to you, I'm not suggesting for one moment that there aren't appalling amounts of murders, but if you total this up in terms of the total amount of murders...
Would you still call it normal crime? If we are 8% of the population and 20 white people get murdered every month by black people, if suddenly 200 black people got murdered by white people in this country, would that still be considered normal crime?
Why do you persist in this idea that... you see, your claim has to be based on the fact that there's a deliberate campaign.
Yes, it is a deliberate
yes, because
campaign.
And what evidence do you have other than these statistics?
Just to start off with,
yes.
we have a president that gets onto a stage in a stadium in front of thousands of people and sings, "Shoot the Boer, bring me my machine gun." Yes, Jacob Zuma sang this at the Mangaung conference in front of thousands of people. "Bring me my machine gun, shoot the Boer. They are cowards."
And you think that that particular song, you think that that is a deliberate, that is clear evidence of a campaign to murder white people?
It is just one element of it.
What else do you have?
We have sorry that they didn't pitch up today to state their case. They have just registered a political party. They sing that song at every single one of their rallies. Then they keep on saying that white people stole everything. We stole the land. We stole the mines. We stole the jobs. We stole everything.
You don't think black people have a legitimate grievance of 300 years of racist rule?
No, they don't, especially not against the Afrikaner.
You see, now what interests me is, I mean, this is a view that's held by quite a lot of people. We have no hope of a non-racial democracy when people hold this view and people hold the diametrically opposed view.
Yes, and I think partly...
And that should freak everybody out.
That should be of great concern,
yes.
And it is, but I have another concern, yes. Which is there are numbers of white South Africans who've spoken out against this particular campaign, right? And there's a reason for that, and there's, it's necessary. But my concern is that Ms. Bridges' professions here of her understandings of history, her understandings of differences between people, is not quite as extreme, as marginal, or as non-representative as we may think it is. That for many very polite middle class, particularly Anglophone South Africans, similar ideas circulate in their social environment. They just don't come out and speak it.
But then let me ask you this. The difficulty that I've got with that particular proposition is not that it's not correct, but we do not seem to be able to have a sensible debate about our past. I mean, I find other people, there's an article which I picked up, there's one by Mkhize in the Sunday Times, and there's another one, she's written quite a lot by Skitter, I think, Gillian Skitter.
Yes.
Now, I see that, on the other hand, as like, you can't have a critical attitude at all if you're Gillian Skitter. You simply accept that everything's marvellous. You've got so consumed by white guilt that you can't be a citizen of this country.
Yeah, that there is the self-silencing and possibly the moment of paralysis.
Yeah. And you can't have a non-racial democracy if people can't articulate their viewpoints without that. And so
yes.
How do we get past that?
Well, firstly, I think that many South Africans continue to be quite invested in the myths of the past rather than the actual historical material. So stating, for example, that white South Africans, or the descendants of, the white South Africans are descendants of people who participated in imperial, colonial and other settlement projects, and that those projects weren't equal interactions between the indigenous population and the new arrivals. That's just historically inaccurate. That's refusing historical material. The more recent the historical material, the more likely we are to deny it as South Africans. So we pretend that we've gone through the 1990s, through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and now the playing field's are level and we all participate.
Which is nonsense as well.
Which we know the facts are not.
But are you saying that because these playing fields aren't level, as far as you are concerned, that then we have to endure what is happening?
Well, it's a question of what we mean by endurance.
Yes.
I want to probe you on this, if I may, because
yes, sure.
It's terribly important. But can I take a break first, and I want to come back to you?
Of course.
News that moves. enca.com.